Hello and welcome to the fourth and final video in the Vise project. In this video we're going to be attaching the brass jaws to the jaw assemblies, and then we're going to be assembling the whole thing and talking about some of the lessons learned in this project. Now there's been a couple of mistakes in previous videos in technique, and there's going to be some in this video, and I'm leaving them all in because I believe that they are instructive to all of you watching. I've just, started machining again after a long time of not doing very much, so a lot of it is relearning how things work. Now, what I'm doing right now is some horizontal milling, and I'm using basically the shape of the mill bit itself to make a semicircular groove in the ends of the body there, and that is where the jaws are going to sit. And since they're made of round stock, they're going to sit nicely into that groove, which just happens to be the perfect diameter for them. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that there's some videography problems with this video as well. I'm using a type of autofocus that I hadn't used before, and it does not like shiny metal objects. It does not like flying chips. It doesn't like smoke. It doesn't like things moving. It doesn't really like much of anything. So I'm either going to use a different autofocus mode next time, or I'll just use manual focus, so as you won't see it going in and out of focus all the time. However, I think it's valuable for you guys to see that, this is the kind of thing that can happen. Now, we're just finishing off this groove here, and once it's at a depth that I'm happy with, we'll move on to preparing the rest of the stock for what we're going to do to it. Alright, so now I'm cutting the round stock in half. There's going to be two jaws, obviously, and this is a very rough cut. I'm pretty much on the center, but I'm mainly just focusing on getting to approximately equal halves. As long as they line up pretty well, it's fine. This whole project has been about relearning some techniques that I knew before, and getting myself back into the groove of metalworking. And so I'm not too concerned with being absolutely perfect with everything. Now what we're going to do is just sand off the rough ends and edges of the round stock we're using for the handle. I could do some knurling on it, except that my lathe is out of commission right now, and until I get it fixed, we're not likely going to be doing things like that. Now this is an interesting screw up you're going to see. When you're using small diameter bits, they will sometimes snap off like that, especially if you're in some metal like aluminum, which I would describe as sticky. If you go in too deeply and don't allow the chips to clear, it'll just grab right onto that drill bit and snap it off. Bigger drill bits such as this one don't usually suffer from the same problems because bigger is generally stronger. Now, this is a prime example of not starting the tap at the right angle. And once you've started a tap at the wrong angle and not paid attention and fixed yourself, if you go down too far, well, there's really no fixing it. You're just at a bad angle, and as you can see, it's very obviously not a good angle. I'll have to use my persuader to fix that. Now, drilling into the steel's going a little bit better. I'm, being a bit more careful. I'm using lots of lubricant. I'm peck drilling, and steel is also not as grabby as aluminum, so I actually like drilling it more. Now, I'm a little straighter when tapping the steel, but still not perfectly straight. You can do tapping in a milling machine if you have a tapping function or a tapping attachment. I actually do have that on my mill, and I could have used it for this part, but for the handle, it would have been really difficult because the handle is, 8 or 10 inches long, so that would have been a problem. Now the soldering here, I'm just doing it with plain old electronic solder. Nothing specifically designed for metallurgy. I'm just using flux core solder, so I'm not adding extra flux like I probably should have. And the oxidation that's present on the metal is making it so the solder doesn't adhere quite as nicely as I'd like it to. It does still create a strong bond in the end, but it doesn't really look pretty. Now, as you'll see with the moving jaw, I heated the piece up a little bit more before putting the solder on, but I allowed the flame to come in contact with the flux there, and that ignites it, and it doesn't do its job quite as well when you literally light it on fire. So we're going to have not as good of wicking as we probably should. It's not going to suck into all of the crevices between the metal and join them perfectly. This is partly due to my lack of skill, and partly due to the fact that they're dissimilar metals, and partly due to the type of solder I'm using. All right, so this is the finished product. It doesn't look exceptionally pretty, but it does function, and we've learned a lot of things in the process of making it. And it is, believe it or not, a usable tool despite its rough edges. So I'll be learning more about joining. I might use brazing, might use welding, but yeah, look forward to my next project, and like and subscribe.